Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. Today's vlog is a special request from a friend of mine. So basically we're going to be talking hairdresser terminology for dummies. So I'm sure a lot of you in the past have wondered what the hell we're talking about when we're using technical terms like splicing, ombre, balayage, baby lights, and you're like, what the hell is my hairdresser talking about? I have no idea, but just do it. So today we're going to clear the air. So we're going to start by talking about splicing, and we're going to go through one by one on hairdresser terminology so that you guys can get a better idea about when you go to the hairdresser what you want to ask for. So splicing. Splicing is the art of taking weight out of the hair in very fine section using a splicing motion. Now I'm going to show you on Shazza here. So first of all, I'm going to get my comb and my scissors, and I'm going to show you what a splice is. So if you were Sharon and you were coming to me for a haircut and I was going to splice some sections of your hair, I would be bringing the hair out from the head and I would use a splicing motion to remove very, very small pieces, mostly throughout the ends there, to remove the weight, the bulkiness from the ends and blend those layers through. So hopefully that makes sense. We're going to move on to the next terminology. Ombre versus balayage. This is a really, really big one that everyone gets confused with. There's even hairdressers that aren't too sure what the difference is. So I'm going to clear up the air again with this one today, guys. So, ombre. Ombre is the art of deepening the roots of someone's hair and bringing it into a lighter end. Now, the difference between an ombre and a balayage is that in an ombre, almost all of the hair on the ends is light, giving you a very distinct difference between the dark and the light ends there. So, it seamlessly blends from dark to mid to light all over the ends. Now a balayage is the art of putting different tones throughout the hair where it does get lighter towards the ends, but it's not technically all of the hair. So in a balayage, you might have a darker root and you might have pieces of light coming through seamlessly and lightening the ends, but it's a little bit more blended and it's not so severe. So that's the difference between a balayage and an ombre. You get a similar result, but one is a little bit more distinct and one is more the technique of using a balayage foil to create dimension in the hair. Baby lights. Now, baby lights are pretty simple. So a baby light is a very, very, very baby fine foil or slice. So what that means is when a hairdresser picks up a piece of hair as such and goes to do a normal foil weave as such, instead of getting a thicker piece that's going to be quite an obvious foil line, it is an extremely, extremely fine amount of hair through there. So it's almost completely seamless and undetectable, but it does lighten throughout. So that's a baby light. Baby lights are used a lot in that seamless blend for balayage and ombre colors. So that's that one. We'll move on to the next. Foils. This one's pretty simple, I think, as well, but I'm going to talk a little bit about the different types of foils that we do. So foiling is the art of using a foil and generally either a lighter or a darker color. Now, a lighter foil is a light foil. A low light means a dark foil. So that's the difference between a low light and a highlight as well. So both can be used inside of a foil to create dimension within the color on the head. So generally a foil will be a quite fine weave as such, painted on top of a foil and folded up inside the hair. So you can either scatter foils where you just do a few pieces throughout the head. You can do back-to-back foils, which means every foil is touching, and that's where you really want to maybe completely lighten the hair without using it all over bleach, or you want to put a lot of depth back into the hair so it's a lot more foils. And you've also just got your normal foiling pattern, which means picking up a piece of hair, foiling it, leaving out a small section and going on to your next piece as well. So when you're asking for foils at the hairdressers, if you're wanting a dramatic change, you might want to go back-to-back foils to get extreme lightness. You might want to go scattered foils just to add a little bit of color throughout what you've already got there. So that terminology is really important to know too when you're discussing with your hairdresser what outcome you're looking for with foil. Chipping. So chipping into the hair means instead of creating a blunt line and a blunt cut, we're going to chip into the ends. Whether you're taking length off or whether you're just trying to break up that sharp line, we're going to chip. So also known as point cutting. So I'm going to show you now. I'm going to pick up a little piece of Shaz's hair here. And generally speaking, you might pull this hair up to layer it, and you could just straight cut that and create a layer. But if I want this to be completely undetectable and really flow and have no lines in the haircut, I might want to come back and chip into it. So I'm going to tell my client, I'm just going to chip into that foil now. And technically I'm point cutting foil the section. So chipping, that's a pretty easy one. You might have heard the term bleach bath or bleach wash. So technically what we're going to be doing, there's a couple of different ways that we can do this. Our main aim as a hairdresser when doing a bleach bath or a bleach wash is to remove buildup in the hair. Or it could be maybe like a baby pink color that you put in there or wanting to go back to blonde. We're going to do this in the softest way possible for your hair without creating damage or dryness. So sometimes we might only be mixing a powder in with a shampoo, and that's going to really, really slowly remove buildup. Or maybe you've used a little bit too much toner and your hair's gone a little bit purple or blue. We can remove that without actually using a really strong bleach. You don't need to go home and bleach your whole head. So the other reason we might want to do it is someone's wanting to go lighter, and instead of started with foils, we might want to lighten them 1 or 2 shades all over. So we might mix a very, very light bleach in with a very low level of peroxide and bath their hair in it. So we're going to slowly lift that color out, making it easier to continue to go light. Toner. So I actually get asked this a lot, what actually is a toner? Toner is color. Toner is technically a second color that we're putting over the first thing that we did, which is generally lightening. So you might have had foils or a bleach done. Bleach and foiling with a bleach only removes color. It doesn't actually have a designated end result. So it removes pigment from the hair, and then we come back in with a second color, which is what we call a toner. And that's where we choose our designated color. So if you're thinking of toner, think of second color. Permanent straightening. Permanent straightening versus keratin I'm going to talk about as well, because I think some people can get confused with that and they're not too sure what the difference is. So permanent straightening means that we are completely changing the DNA of your hair. We're going to break every single bond in your hair using a very strong chemical, and then we're going to straighten it from a curly bond to a straight bond, and then we're going to go in there with another chemical and we're going to set it. We're completely changing the DNA of the hair, which means it can't bounce back. As your hair grows, it's going to grow obviously how it is naturally, but the parts that we've chemically changed are going to stay the same. So that's a permanent straighten. Only recommended to people with either natural hair or a dark color. It is quite strong, so definitely don't recommend it on anyone that's had highlights or bleaching done to their hair before, as it can cause damage. But in most cases, if it's done correctly and if your hairdresser is really careful, you can get a fantastic result out of permanent straightening. Keratin, on the other hand, is completely different. Keratin is a smoothing product. It actually is not made to technically straighten the hair, but in a lot of cases it will create a straighter result due to the fact that it's removing frizz and it's removing unruly hair. So that's only going to last in the hair about 3 months. You can use shampoos and conditioners at home to keep it up and try to keep it in the hair as much as possible, but as soon as you put a chemical over the top of a keratin, it's going to strip it out. It sits on the outside of the hair. The keratin does not change the bonds of the hair permanently at all. All it does is smooth the hair on the outside by creating a film that lasts for 3 months. Olaplex. This is another one that we get asked all the time. I would like to have my hair bleached with Olaplex. Olaplex is not a bleach, it's not a color, it's not even really a chemical. Olaplex is a rebonding treatment, which means that we add it into colors that we use in the salon to help to rebond the hair while it's going through a chemical process. So the best way to think of Olaplex is that when your hair is going through a chemical process, it's going to be in there keeping those DNA strands nice and strong, reforming them to be nice and strong, and then setting them like that. So that while lightening your hair, you can help avoid damage. So it's not actually technically a color or a bleach on its own. It's an additive that we add in to avoid damage and dryness to the hair while going through a chemical process. Fantastic. Okay guys, keeping it short and sweet today. Thank you so much for listening, and thank you to Shazza for being an amazing model over here. She was nice and quiet that whole time, which is fantastic. And we will see you again in our next video.